One of my favorite things about mixing is how easily you can reference it to your daily life. And in this episode, I want to talk about balance. This is something we struggle with from the day we're born until, well, and it's something that we never stop striving for. And when you don't have it, or at least it feels like you don't have it, there's this unsettling feeling that you don't have it all together. And this is the same in real life as it is in a song. And when you aren't balanced, one wrong move and you can completely fall apart. Take me, standing on one foot right now. Yeah, I can hold this position for a while, but everything's lopsided and I'm always struggling to find my center again. It's sort of like when your panning isn't right in a song and it's messing with your stereo image, but you can't find the culprit. Kind of like this. See what I mean? That might be a bit of an exaggerated example, but by the end of this video, we'll have gone over all the intricacies of getting a proper balance in your mix. So what's happening, fam? Miami here with JST, and I'm really sticking to that mixing is a lot like real life concept this episode. If life kicks you when you're down, maybe putting you in a snare, you'll have to come out of your shell and stick to it before you crash. Life is not only like mixing, when it comes to drums, it's truly symbolic. Yeah, transition game and all that. So obviously, we're gonna kickstart this off with your bass drum. At this point, all of your drum tracks should be getting sent to the drum bus so you can control everything at one time. Let's take a listen to the kick and see the point at which it's hitting. Okay, so to start off getting the level right, we're gonna put JST Maximizer on this in clipper mode. This will take the peaks off the kick drum. It's really important because you want the shells to not bounce around too much in volume, so you don't make the bus compressor go haywire when you add it. Let's listen to that. Alright, sick. Now, the signal is going to be very tamed when it's hitting that compressor. We're going to add the snare into the mix now and clip it as well because the kick and snare are going to be the biggest things that would send your bus comp into overload. You should audibly be able to tell when the kick and snare are level, but just be aware they should always be hitting within a couple dB of each other at this point. The snare is going to sound louder just because our ears are more attentive to high-end frequency information. Now that we have the kick and snare going, it's time to bring in the overheads in rooms, if you have any. You should lightly limit the overheads to just tame those peaks once again, but you can absolutely crush the rooms. It's the life of the kit. Let's listen to bringing the overheads in. It should sound like it's supporting the kick and snare, but not be competing. And last but not least, let's add these rooms in to give the kit some life. If you have stereo rooms, this is a nice way to add some depth into your stereo image. If you're loving these sounds, make sure to be a part of the JST plugin list in the description below because Maximizer is available now, and to top it off, it comes with JST EQ for free. So hop on that before Joey realizes how insane that is and changes his mind. Now we're on to balancing your bass. We got to the point of having a solid drum mix, and the next thing that we want to do is make sure that the bass sits well against the kick drum because it's very easy for the low end of the bass to compete with the kick. I don't want to get into sidechain compression and all that, but the bass in this example was originally split to represent the low end and top end and cutting out the low mids. So unbalanced boxiness sometimes causes really inaccurate bass energy. Wait, so unbalanced boxiness sometimes causes really inaccurate bass energy. Yeah, that's right. My transition game is back, stronger than ever. So make sure you hit that subscribe button, bell, and like button because it's free, bro. And you aren't watching ads every 10 seconds, there's no strings attached. Except the ones attached to the bass, so let's get back to that. We're gonna start by bringing this bass up to have it loud enough that it doesn't compete with the low end, but we can also hear the defining top end from the transient information. Alright, now we're grooving along. This is one of the most beautiful feelings because it means that the backbone of your mix has been figured out. Now we have a solid bass line for our mix, and our mix has a solid bass line. On to the next part of the equation, the guitars. When you're balancing guitars, first you have to think of the type of music you're going to be doing. In rock and metal, it's extremely important to have your guitars super loud and in your face, so this can be challenging when you already have a bass that's distorted and eating up that center channel, right? This is why it's so important to pan your guitars out 100% at the moments you want things to sound the largest. But now we're going to bring in the guitars to this mix. I'll show you where they would typically sit within a typical song, and then show you where we like to hear them in rock and metal. That gives us a glimpse of the overall picture of what the song would sound like, covering the whole frequency spectrum. But that's just the rhythm guitars. Now we have to find a balance for the lead guitars in the mix of all of this. This is the point about balance I wanted to get to. You need to start thinking logically at this point. The bass is taking up the center, and the guitars are panned left and right. The bass can be low passed at like 5 to 6K. If there are no vocals happening, what area makes the most sense to fill up? The high end of the center. This is why you'll notice that high-end EQ is often boosted at 8 to 9K on lead guitars, because there's nothing filling up that range. And if there is something filling up that space, for example a vocal, it makes sense to double the lead and pan it out to the sides, somewhere like 50 to 70%, because now you're leaving space for other things to shine. It's not only about faders moving up and down, you know? It's about audio moving left and right. Based on that information, let's try and add some lead guitars into this mix. So the band is officially sitting pretty at this point, and you don't have a ton left to worry about. Just the most important part of the song and what everyone's gonna hate on you for if it doesn't sound amazing. That's right, the vocals. Balancing your vocals. My favorite and most controversial part of a mix, getting your vocals to be balanced properly. I always start by sending all of the vocals to a bus, and I prefer to start balancing the vocals with themselves, like before hearing any instruments at all. I want there to be a balance between them, and as I bring them into the song, I'll adjust accordingly. We're gonna start with the main vocal and work our way to the backing vocal. One thing I want you to realize about this is the balance is gonna depend on the arrangement. If it's a single vocal, you know, God help us all, time to pull out Howard Benson vocals and get that multiplier working.
Wishing wells, I throw myself inside this hell, left with nothing else to give inside this hollow shell.
If it's a vocal and a double, I'll have the doubled vocal in the center also, but 6 to 9 dB lower in volume. But this really depends on how tight those vocals are edited to each other. Let's take a listen to that.
Wishing wells, I throw myself inside this hell, left with nothing else to give inside this hollow shell.
And if there's any harmonies, I'm gonna have those panned also, but not as hard as the tripled ones. Let's listen to that.
Wishing wells, I throw myself inside this hell, left with nothing else to give inside this hollow shell. A broken window shatters.
This is gonna create a great stereo spread for us. And then we're going to blend it into the mix. So let's bring the vocals up in the mix, and we have to find a suitable volume for it to sit at. So there you have it. Balancing your instruments isn't the simplest task ever, but using this type of method, you can make it a little easier on yourself. I'm glad we were able to get to the bottom of this one in the series. We went over balancing your drums, balancing your bass to the drums, balancing your rhythm and lead guitars, balancing vocals. I hope you understand how important truly having balance in your mix can be. We're no longer standing on one leg trying to find our even center again. And do you feel like there's anything that I left out? Is this the way that you would approach balancing? Leave it in the comments below and I will chat with you fine people like I always do. If you're an engineer on the come up, give this video a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe, you only have to do it one time, and tap that bell for notifications so when a video drops, you know the location. Until next time, I am out of here. Mic drop, except as engineers we know, I'd never really drop this thing, because that get really expensive, even if it is a piece of shirt. Later.